The marble floors of Whitman and Associates gleamed like mirrors under the harsh fluorescent lights as I pushed my cleaning cart through the executive hallway at 4 a.m. 3 years I'd been invisible in these offices, arriving before dawn to polish away the evidence of their expensive lives. Spilled wine from client dinners, muddy footprints from their designer shoes, lipstick marks on coffee cups that cost more than my weekly groceries. My name is Maya Richardson, and at 32, I'd learned that being a black woman with a master's degree meant nothing when you couldn't afford to wait for the right opportunity. My student loans didn't care that the economy had crashed the year I graduated. My landlord didn't accept potential as payment, so here I was, sanitizing the offices of people who'd never bothered to learn my name, despite seeing me every morning for 3 years. "You missed a spot," Victoria Chen had said to me last week, pointing at an imaginary smudge on her glass door with a perfectly manicured nail. She was the head of HR, a woman who preached diversity in company newsletters while ensuring people like me stayed in appropriate positions. I'd re-wiped the spotless door while she watched, her lips pursed in satisfaction. The truth was, I wasn't just good at my job, I was exceptional. The facilities manager, Mr. Hendricks, once told me I was the best cleaner they'd ever had. "You've got an eye for detail," he'd said, not knowing I'd spent 4 years analyzing financial models at Northwestern, training my brain to spot patterns and inconsistencies. Now I used those same skills to ensure every surface sparkled. Every trash bin was perfectly positioned. Every office plant was watered to precision. The executive floor was my domain from 4 to 7 a.m., before the suits arrived. I knew their habits intimately, who drank their coffee black, who left confidential documents on their desk, who was having an affair based on the 2 wine glasses I'd find in certain offices. I was a ghost who knew all their secrets, invisible yet omnipresent. That morning, everything changed when I entered the corner office of Jonathan Whitman, the company's CEO and founding partner's son. At 35, he'd inherited an empire and, according to office gossip, was struggling to prove himself worthy of it. I usually cleaned his office last because he often worked late, sometimes sleeping on the leather couch that cost more than my annual salary. But that morning, he was there, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the Chicago sunrise paint the skyline gold. He wore yesterday's shirt, sleeves rolled up, tie abandoned on his desk beside an empty bottle of scotch and 2 glasses. Not drunk. I'd learned to recognize the difference. Just exhausted. "I'm sorry, Mr. Whitman," I said, already backing toward the door. "I can come back." "No, please." He turned and for the first time in 3 years, actually looked at me. Not through me, not past me, but at me. His eyes were green with flecks of gold, tired but kind. "I'm the one who should apologize. You're here to do your job." I nodded, unsure what to say. In 3 years, he'd never spoken to me beyond a distracted morning when our paths crossed. "Maya, right?" he asked, and my heart skipped. He knew my name. "Yes, sir." "I've seen you reading during your breaks," he said, gesturing to the chair where I sometimes sat in the empty conference room at 6:30 a.m., stealing 15 minutes with whatever book I was devouring that week. Last week it was Piketty's Capital in the 21st Century. Heavy material for 6 a.m. Heat flooded my cheeks. I'd thought no one noticed my stolen moments of intellectual sustenance. I didn't think anyone. "I have insomnia," he explained, a rueful smile crossing his face. "I walk the floors sometimes. You're always so absorbed, you never notice me passing by." He paused, studying me with an intensity that made me want to disappear. "Why are you reading economic theory at dawn while cleaning offices?" The question hung between us, loaded with more weight than he probably intended. I could have lied, made an excuse, maintained the comfortable distance between CEO and cleaning lady. Instead, perhaps because of his unexpected kindness or the vulnerability in his exhausted eyes, I told the truth. "Because I have a master's in economics from Northwestern, but nobody wants to hire a black woman from the South Side for anything except cleaning their offices or serving their coffee." The words came out harder than I intended, years of frustration bleeding through. I immediately regretted it. I needed this job. But Jonathan didn't look offended. Instead, something shifted in his expression. Surprise, then understanding, then something else I couldn't quite read. Northwestern, he repeated softly. That's where I did my MBA. He was quiet for a moment, then asked, "What was your thesis on?" "Income inequality and its correlation with racial wealth gaps in major metropolitan areas," I replied. The academic words feeling foreign on my tongue after 3 years of "yes, sir," and "right away, ma'am." His eyes lit up with genuine interest. "And your findings?" For the next 20 minutes, I forgot I was holding a mop. We discussed economic theory, debated policy implications, challenged each other's interpretations. He was brilliant, but more than that, he listened, really listened, to my ideas. When I disagreed with his analysis of Federal Reserve policies, he didn't dismiss me. He leaned forward, eager to understand my perspective. "This is insane," he finally said, running his hands through his dark hair. "You should be running our analytics department, not cleaning it." "Your HR department disagrees," I said quietly, the spell breaking. "I've applied 4 times. Never even got an interview." His jaw tightened. "Victoria?" I didn't answer, but my silence was confirmation enough. "I need to go," I said, noticing the time. "The others will arrive soon. And I need to finish the West Wing." "Maya, wait." He pulled out his business card, writing something on the back. "My direct line. Call me later today. We need to talk about getting you where you belong." I took the card with trembling fingers, hope and skepticism warring in my chest. I'd been disappointed too many times to believe in fairy tales, even ones with green-eyed princes in corner offices. As I pushed my cart toward the door, he called out, "Maya, the analysis you just shared about the correlation between Fed policies and minority unemployment? You're right. I was looking at it wrong." I left his office feeling something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Seen. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I cleaned mechanically, my mind replaying our conversation. By 7 a.m., when the first employees began arriving, I was back in my invisible role. Victoria Chen swept past me without acknowledgement, her heels clicking against the marble like a countdown to something I couldn't yet name. I was emptying the trash in the break room when I heard her voice, sharp and cutting from around the corner. "Jonathan's getting soft," she was saying to someone. "Did you know he was here at 4 a.m. talking to the cleaning girl? Marcus saw them through his office door. She was in there for almost half an hour." "The black one?" Another voice asked. "Patricia from legal. She's always lurking around, reading things above her pay grade." "Exactly. I've told Hendricks repeatedly that she makes people uncomfortable, always watching, always listening, and now she's trying to seduce Jonathan?" Please, as if he'd ever looked twice at someone like that. My hand stilled on the garbage bag. Someone like that. The words were carefully chosen, legally safe, but I heard the subtext loud and clear. Someone black, someone poor, someone beneath consideration. "I'll handle it," Victoria continued. "Jonathan's obviously going through something. The pressure from the board, his father's legacy. He's vulnerable. The last thing we need is some opportunistic nobody taking advantage of that vulnerability. What are you going to do?" "What I always do. Protect this company from threats, even the ones that come pushing cleaning carts." I finished my shift in a haze of anger and dread. Victoria had power here. Connections. She could make my life hell, could take away even this job that barely paid my bills. But as I fingered Jonathan's card in my pocket, I felt something else too. Defiance. I'd been invisible for 3 years, accepted their dismissal, their contempt, their casual cruelty. But Jonathan had seen me. Really seen me. And that changed everything. That evening, in my studio apartment in Englewood, I stared at my phone for an hour before dialing his number. "Maya," he answered immediately, as if he'd been waiting. "I was hoping you'd call." "Mr. Whitman." "Jonathan, please." "Jonathan." I tested the name, feeling its weight. "About this morning. I appreciate your kindness, but we both know how this world works. Victoria Chen will never let someone like me into your analytics department." Victoria Chen doesn't make those decisions. I do. With respect, that's naive. You might be CEO, but every company has its shadow power structure. Victoria controls the narrative here. I've already heard what she's saying about our conversation this morning. There was silence on the other end then. What is she saying? That I'm an opportunistic nobody trying to seduce you because you're vulnerable. I heard his sharp intake of breath, then something that sounded like a fist hitting a desk. I want to see you, he said. Not at the office. Can you meet me for coffee tomorrow? There's a place called Millennium Park Cafe, neutral ground. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was a bad idea. But rationality had gotten me 3 years of mopping floors despite my qualifications. Okay, I said. Maya? His voice was softer now. I meant what I said. You belong in that building as an analyst, not a cleaner, and I'm going to make that happen. After we hung up, I sat in my dimly lit apartment, surrounded by economics journals and policy papers that I read to keep my mind sharp for a future that never seemed to arrive. Change felt impossible, but for the first time in years, impossible felt negotiable. The Millennium Park Cafe was a deliberate choice, public enough to be appropriate, far enough from the office to avoid Victoria's spies. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing my best dress, the one I'd bought for job interviews that never led anywhere. Jonathan was already there in jeans and a sweater, looking younger and less intimidating than he did in his tailored suits. You came, he said, standing as I approached, pulling out my chair. The gesture was so unexpected, so gentle that I almost cried. When was the last time someone had shown me that kind of courtesy? I almost didn't, I admitted, sitting down. But you did. That takes courage. He signaled the waitress, then turned those green eyes on me. Tell me about yourself, Maya. The real you, not the resume version. So I did. I told him about growing up in Englewood, where gunshots were lullabies and dreams were luxuries we couldn't afford. About my grandmother who cleaned houses for 50 years and made me promise I'd be more. About studying by candlelight when the electricity got cut off. About walking to the library in the snow because the bus fare was needed for food. About getting into Northwestern on a full scholarship and thinking I'd finally made it, only to graduate into a world that still saw my skin before my credentials. He listened without interrupting, his coffee growing cold between his hands. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. My father built our company on the myth of meritocracy, he said finally. He truly believed talent would always rise to the top. But talent isn't enough when the system is designed to keep certain people at the bottom. He met my eyes. I've been CEO for 2 years, and I've let people like Victoria maintain that system because it was easier than fighting it. I'm ashamed of that. Why do you care now? I asked, needing to understand. He smiled sadly. Because this morning I met someone brilliant who's been cleaning my office for 3 years, and I realized I'm not the leader I pretended to be. My father would be disappointed in what I've let his company become. Victoria will destroy you for helping me, I warned. Let her try. There was steel in his voice now. I've been playing nice for too long. Monday morning, you're coming in for an interview with me personally. Bring your transcripts, your thesis, any published work. We're going to do this properly, undeniably. She'll sabotage it. She'll spread rumors, make accusations. Maya. He reached across the table, his fingers barely brushing mine before pulling back, aware of boundaries. Do you know what I noticed first about you? Before the books? Before our conversation? I shook my head. How you arrange my desk. Every morning, you put things back exactly where they belong, but slightly better. The papers at perfect right angles. The pens aligned, the photos angled just right. It's like you see the potential for order in chaos. That's what a good analyst does. Finds patterns, creates clarity. You've been doing the job all along, just not with the right materials. The weekend passed in a blur of preparation and anxiety. I pressed my best suit, printed my transcripts, practiced answers to every possible interview question. But Monday came with a call from Hendricks, not Jonathan. Don't come in today, Maya, he said, his voice strained. Or ever. I'm sorry, but there's been a complaint. Theft. Security found company property in your locker. The world tilted. What? That's impossible. I know, but there's evidence, photos. I'm sorry, Maya, my hands are tied. I called Jonathan immediately, but his assistant said he was in an emergency board meeting. Then I understood. Victoria had struck first. By noon, my phone rang. Jonathan. Maya, where are you? Home. Hendricks fired me. They said I stole... I know. Victoria presented the board with evidence this morning. A company laptop in your locker, photos of you entering offices after hours, implications about our meeting. She's trying to paint you as a corporate spy and me as compromised. I'm so sorry. I never should have. Stop, listen to me. I've been investigating Victoria all weekend. Did you know she's been taking kickbacks from our cleaning company contractor? Hendricks' boss gets a cut for keeping wages low and hiring only through Victoria's approved channels. You weren't the first qualified person she's kept out. My mind raced. Can you prove it? I'm working on it, but Maya, she's also spreading something else about us. She's suggesting our coffee meeting was inappropriate, that I'm having a relationship with you. I laughed bitterly. A relationship? We've had 2 conversations. I know, but she's using it to question my judgment. My stability. The board is considering a vote of no confidence. Jonathan, stop. This isn't worth losing your position. Yes, it is. His voice was fierce. Because if I remain CEO by letting her destroy you, then I'm exactly the kind of leader my father would despise. Maya, I need you to trust me, too. Can you do that? Why? The word came out broken. Why do you care this much? He was silent for so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, quietly, because in 35 years, you're the first person who's looked at me and seen something more than my last name or my bank account, and because... He paused. Because I can't stop thinking about you. Not the way Victoria's implying, but I admire you. Your strength, your brilliance, your integrity. The company needs people like you. He stopped himself. Just trust me. Please. That evening, an encrypted email appeared in my inbox. Security footage from 3 months of Victoria's late-night office visits, where she met with the cleaning contractor and exchanged envelopes, account records showing deposits that matched the amounts the company paid for diversity consulting that never materialized, screenshots of emails where she explicitly stated she would keep the cleaning staff in their place and maintain appropriate boundaries between service and management. But the most damning thing was a recorded conversation between Victoria and Patricia from legal, discussing how they'd planted the laptop in my locker and created fake timestamps for the security photos. Jonathan, how did you get this? I have a friend in IT who's been concerned about Victoria's activities for years but was too scared to act. Your situation gave him courage. This could destroy her. She tried to destroy you first. And how many others before you? Over the next 3 days, Jonathan built his case while Victoria built hers. The office, I heard from a sympathetic security guard, was in chaos. Sides were forming. The old guard supported Victoria. She'd protected their comfortable status quo for years. But younger employees, especially those who'd witnessed her casual cruelty, began speaking up. Thursday night, Jonathan called. The board meeting is tomorrow. They'll decide both our fates. Victoria's demanding you be prosecuted for theft, and that I resign for inappropriate conduct with a subordinate. I was never your subordinate. I was contract labor. Technicality won't matter if she controls the narrative. He paused. Maya, I need to ask you something. If this goes badly, if I lose everything, would you... He stopped. No, that's not fair. Forget it. Ask me, I said softly. Would you have dinner with me? Not as CEO and potential employee, but as Jonathan and Maya, 2 people who see each other clearly. My heart raced. Jonathan, I know the optics are terrible, the timing worse, but I've spent my whole life doing what's expected, what's appropriate, and it's left me hollow. You make me want to be better, to do better. Not for the company, not for my father's legacy, but because you deserve a world where your brilliance isn't wasted. Ask me again, I whispered. After tomorrow, when you're still CEO and I'm your newest analyst, you believe we'll win? I believe in you, and that terrifies me. Why? Because I've learned not to believe in anyone but myself, and you're making me hope again. Friday arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood. I sat in my apartment, phone in hand, waiting. Jonathan was in that boardroom, fighting not just for me but for the soul of his company. Victoria would be there too, polished and poisonous, wielding her influence like a weapon. At 3 p.m. my phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Richardson, this is Robert Whitman Sr., Jonathan's father. My heart stopped. Sir? I've spent the morning reviewing everything my son presented. The evidence against Victoria Chen, your credentials, and the systematic discrimination you've faced. I'm appalled and ashamed. Sir, I never meant. You impressed my son, Ms. Richardson. That's not easy to do. He says you're brilliant. Your thesis advisor at Northwestern, whom I called this morning, says the same. Says you were one of the most promising students she'd ever taught. That was years ago. Talent doesn't expire. I built this company on the principle that excellence should be rewarded. I failed that principle. My son is correcting my failure. Is Jonathan okay? There was a pause, then warmth in the older man's voice. He's more than okay. He's finally the leader I always knew he could be. The board voted. Unanimously, after seeing the evidence, Victoria's been terminated. Her entire network is under investigation, and you, Ms. Richardson, have an offer waiting for you. Senior analyst position, full benefits, and a signing bonus equivalent to 3 years of back pay for the position you should have had from the start. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Ms. Richardson? I'm here, I managed. Good, because my son is pacing the hallway, waiting to speak with you, and I've never seen him this nervous about anything, including his first board presentation. He handed the phone over, and Jonathan's voice filled my ear. Maya? You did it, I breathed. We did it. You gave me the courage to fight her. Your strength, your refusal to accept injustice, you changed everything. Monday morning, I walked into Whitman and Associates through the front door, wearing my best suit and carrying a leather briefcase I'd bought with my signing bonus. The security guard who used to nod sleepily at me at 4 a.m. now stood straighter, offering a respectful good morning, Ms. Richardson. The marble floors still gleamed, but now they reflected my heels clicking with purpose, not the wheels of a cleaning cart. I had an office on the 7th floor, not executive level, but high enough to see the sunrise over Lake Michigan. My nameplate read Maya Richardson, Senior Financial Analyst. But the victory felt hollow as I noticed the stares, heard the whispers. Victoria's allies remained, and they weren't happy. Patricia from legal passed my office multiple times, her face twisted with disgust. Marcus from accounting made a point of questioning every report I submitted. The microaggressions came fast and sharp. Emails accidentally left off distributions, meeting invites that arrived too late, lunch groups that suddenly had no more room. They'll adjust, Jonathan assured me during one of our official weekly meetings. But I saw the strain in his eyes. The board might have supported him, but the cultural war was far from over. 3 weeks into my new position, everything exploded. I was presenting my analysis on market diversification to the senior staff when Patricia interrupted. I find it interesting, she said, voice dripping with false sweetness, that your recommendations align so perfectly with Mr. Whitman's vision, almost as if you discuss them privately. All analysts align their work with company strategy. I replied evenly. Of course, but not all analysts have private coffee dates with the CEO, do they? The room went silent. Jonathan's jaw tightened, but I touched his arm lightly under the table. My fight to win. You're right, Patricia. Not all analysts get coffee with the CEO. Most don't need to meet off-site because they're not being actively sabotaged by HR. Would you like to discuss the $200,000 in false invoices Victoria approved with your signature as witness? Her face went white. I'd spent 3 weeks not just analyzing markets, but analyzing Victoria's network. The corruption ran deep. That's slander. That's fact. I have copies of everything, submitted to the board this morning. I stood, addressing the room. I know many of you resent my presence here. You see me as a threat to your comfortable world where merit matters less than melanin. But I'm not going anywhere, and neither is the truth about what's been happening in this company. Marcus stood abruptly. You can't prove anything about me. The $60,000 in kickbacks from our Singapore suppliers, the offshore account in your wife's maiden name, try me. One by one, Victoria's network revealed itself through their panic, and one by one I dismantled them with facts, figures, and evidence I'd gathered while they dismissed me as unworthy of notice. But Patricia had one more card to play. That afternoon, she sent a company-wide email with photos, Jonathan entering my apartment building at night, leaving in the morning. The images were dated from the previous weekend when he'd come to help me move boxes of economic journals into my new office space. But context didn't matter. The narrative did. CEO's inappropriate relationship with diversity hire threatens company stability, read the subject line. Within an hour, it had been forwarded to business blogs, social media, competitors. The scandal Victoria had failed to create, Patricia had manifested through distortion. Jonathan found me in my office, packing my things. What are you doing? Leaving. It's the only way to save your reputation. Stop. He closed the door, crossed to where I stood. Maya, look at me. I met his green eyes, saw pain there, but also determination. Do you know what Patricia doesn't know? What those photos don't show? I shook my head. That I've been in love with you since that morning you explained economic theory while holding a mop. That every day I watch you fight with grace and brilliance, I fall deeper. That I don't give a damn about their narrative because I know our truth. Jonathan, I know. I know it's complicated and messy and gives them ammunition. But I'm tired of letting fear dictate our lives, aren't you? Before I could respond, his phone rang. His father. Put it on speaker, Robert Sr. commanded. Jonathan complied, and his father's voice filled the room. I've seen Patricia's email. I've also seen the security footage from your apartment building, Maya, showing my son carrying boxes labeled Northwestern Economics Department, plus the receipt for the U-Haul he rented to help you move. Patricia's about to learn what happens when you commit libel. Mr. Whitman. Robert, please. Maya, I'm calling an emergency board meeting. I want you both there. It's time to end this completely. The boardroom at 5 p.m. was packed. Not just board members, but senior staff, including Patricia and Marcus, both looking smugly confident. They thought they'd won. Robert Sr. stood at the head of the table. We're here to address the malicious campaign against 2 of our employees. Patricia, you've distributed falsified information suggesting inappropriate conduct. You've also participated in embezzlement, fraud, and creating a hostile work environment. You can't prove. I can. A new voice from the doorway. A young black woman in a sharp suit entered. Denise Washington, FBI. We've been investigating Whitman and Associates for 18 months based on anonymous tips about financial irregularities. Ms. Richardson's analysis made our job much easier. The room erupted. Patricia tried to run, but security blocked the door. Marcus sat frozen, calculating his odds. Here's what's going to happen. Agent Washington continued. Those involved in financial crimes will be arrested. Those guilty of creating hostile work environments will be terminated with cause. And Ms. Richardson will be recognized for her invaluable assistance to our investigation. This is because she's, Patricia started. Choose your next words very carefully, Agent Washington warned. I'm also head of our Civil Rights Division. As Patricia and Marcus were led away in handcuffs, the remaining board members sat in stunned silence. Robert Sr. cleared his throat. I built this company on excellence. Somewhere along the way, we lost that. My son and Ms. Richardson have shown us the cost of that failure. Going forward, things will be different. He looked at me. Maya, you've been here 6 weeks and uncovered corruption that's existed for years. I'm promoting you to Vice President of Strategic Analysis, reporting directly to the CEO. Anyone who has a problem with that can submit their resignation to HR, our new HR, that is. Sir, that's too much. It's not enough. But it's a start. He turned to Jonathan. As for you, son, you've shown more leadership in the past month than in your previous 2 years. I'm proud of you. Dad, And if you're in love with Ms. Richardson, as your mother seems to think based on how you talk about her constantly, then pursue it properly, transparently. Let the world see that excellence and integrity can coexist with genuine human connection. Jonathan looked at me, question in his eyes. In front of everyone, I made my choice. Dinner, I said. Tomorrow night, after I finish my analysis on the Singapore accounts. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that had first made me believe in possibilities. I'll wait. The room cleared slowly, people murmuring, processing the seismic shift in their world. When we were alone, Jonathan took my hand. You saved my company, he said. You saved my faith in justice, I replied. We make a good team. We do. 6 months later, I stood in that same boardroom, presenting our quarterly report showing record profits after restructuring. The toxic elements were gone, replaced by talented people who'd been overlooked for years. Jonathan watched from his seat, no longer hiding his admiration. That night, in his apartment overlooking the lake, he pulled me close. Do you remember what you said that first morning about being invisible? I remember. You were never invisible to me. Maya, even before we spoke, I saw you. Your dignity, your strength, the way you held your head high despite everything. You changed me before you even knew my name. You gave me hope when I'd forgotten what it felt like, I said, tracing the line of his jaw. You saw my worth when the world insisted I had none. Marry me, he said suddenly, then laughed at his own impulsiveness. I mean, I have a ring and a plan and a speech, but… Yes, I said, stopping his nervous rambling with a kiss. Yes to all of it. To you, to us, to the future we're building. The Chicago Tribune ran our engagement announcement with the headline, Love and Justice, How One Couple Transformed Corporate Culture. But I preferred the card from Agent Washington. To the woman who proved that the best revenge is irrefutable evidence, congratulations. Standing in my corner office, yes, Victoria's old office, poetic justice at its finest, I looked out at the city that had tried to limit me to its shadows. The cleaning cart was gone, but the lessons remained. I'd learned to see in the dark, to find truth in hidden corners, to polish away lies until only clarity remained. Jonathan joined me, wrapping his arms around my waist. What are you thinking? That every morning at 4 a.m. when I pushed that cart through these halls. I was preparing for this moment. I was learning the building's secrets, understanding its rhythms, seeing what others missed. You were always meant to be here, Maya. Not cleaning the offices, but leading them. We both know it's not that simple. There are thousands of Mayas out there pushing carts, serving coffee, wasting their brilliance because the world can't see past its prejudices. Then we change that, one hire at a time, one promotion at a time, one chance at a time. I turned in his arms, seeing the man who'd recognized my worth when I'd almost forgotten it myself. Together? Together. The sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber. In its light, everything seemed possible. And for the first time in my life, I believed it actually was.